Okay, I need to stop. I need to move this all out of the way. I need to put this down here, change the background to pink, and something's still off. What is it? The drawn lines, and okay. Now I can really get started. If you couldn't tell by that little intro, today I'll be talking about Fire Emblem. This video was bound to happen. I mean, look at my banner. There's a Fire Emblem character right there. I already made a video about Fire Emblem before, and I really like these games. Most of this video might just be me nerding out and being a fanboy over Fire Emblem, and I'm sorry, but I just can't help it. These games changed my life. I'm exaggerating quite a bit. Now, Fire Emblem is mostly known through Super Smash Bros. And not in a good way. Some Smash players actually dislike the series solely because of how many Fire Emblem characters there are in the game. There's 8 Fire Emblem characters in Smash Ultimate. 8 out of 89. To put it into perspective, you could play an 8-man free-for-all with only Fire Emblem characters. Yeah, even as a fan, that is a bit much. But hating a game series you've never played because of this, and now we're just getting out of hand here. But enough about that. Let's say the next Smash game, for whatever reason, had decided to cut out every Fire Emblem character except one for their roster. I think the only character who could be the true representation of Fire Emblem would be Marth. And I don't think many people will disagree with me here. I mean, without Marth, we wouldn't have any of these memes. You know, everybody knows who Marth is, but not everybody has played his game. So in this video, I'll be talking about the very first Fire Emblem game, Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, released in 1990 for the NES. And while I'm at it, I'll also talk about Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem, which came out in 1994 for the SNES. For those who are new to this series, there are 17, or 18 games if you want to count the mobile game like how Sakurai did, which are numbered by their release date. The numbering isn't actually on the title of the games, but it makes talking about them much easier. Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light would be Fire Emblem 1, and Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem would be Fire Emblem 3. Now I'm sure you've noticed that I've skipped over the second game, and the main reason I'm doing that is because Fire Emblem Gaiden, or FE2, has a new protagonist, and isn't about the story of Marth. And you know, totally not because I want to make a video about this game, and its remake later in the future or anything. That'd be crazy. FE1 and 3 are about the story of Marth, and I want to keep this video all about the first games and him. If you're already someone who's familiar with Fire Emblem, then you probably already know that these two games actually had remakes done on the DS. But here's the thing, I want to go from the very beginning to whenever I get to those games. This is also a strategic move, because I'd rather not have this ever happen again. I mean, oh my god, how the hell did this even happen? Xenogears, that's what. Another thing before we start is the question of how am I going to play these games? I'm going to be playing an unofficial translated version of both of these games, because Nintendo really did something that pissed me off. You see this? This is Fire Emblem 1, right? This is the first game in the series localized in English for the very first time. This was done for Fire Emblem's 30th anniversary, but this was a limited time release. This game was available until March 31st of 2021. If you're a fan like me who happened to not get the game during that time frame, I guess I just can't get it. I just can't get it. Why the hell did Nintendo do this? Come on, guys. A limited time release? It's a digital game. Putting all that aside, though, the translated version of the game I'm playing is probably near the same quality as the official localization anyways. As for FE3, there's never been an official localization of this game, so I kinda have to play an unofficial translation. Some names and items are translated differently, but it's completely fine with me. I'm just glad to be able to play it all. Okay, so Fire Emblem. I need to think here about the background color. I feel like an appropriate color would be blue, right? I mean, it's the only color I could use. It's Fire Emblem. Right? Whatever. Alright, so today I'll be teaching you a bunch of stuff about Fire Emblem. I'm not the best at these games, but I've played every single one, so I can teach you a little bit about them. But by no means am I professional. I'm just sharing some stuff that I picked up over the years. As soon as we start the game, we're introduced to Prince Marth right away. A princess from Talus Castle has come to tell Marth that the castle has been taken over by pirates, and it's up to Marth and his crew of Altea's bravest knights to take it back. And you know what? That's as simple as it gets. Great way to start it off. As you can see, this game is a grid-based strategy RPG, but one of the most defining features of Fire Emblem is the permadeath mechanic. If a character dies, they don't come back for the next level. They're actually dead. Now that sounds tough because it makes the game much harder. The thing with this is that many people will just reset to keep every character alive, and I can't blame them because I'm guilty of this too. I think we already know what happens. No! Oh.
Yo, you're Iron Manning this, right?
No, I'm resetting this. I need Gordon. No. Okay, but how about we talk about some Fire Emblem stuff, starting with the classes. There are many classes in this game that I'm not going to be naming off, but let's look here at what we have for this first chapter. Remember, this is the very first game in the series, so it laid the groundwork for many things in future games. This is Marth, our blue-haired lord. In Fire Emblem, the lord is our protagonist, and as you can see, he has the signature blue hair that every Smash player hates. Below him, we have Cain and Abel, the first iteration of the Christmas Cavaliers. Why are they called that? Well, one's red and the other one's green, so Christmas-colored Cavaliers. Or you could say complementary colored Cavalier. That's dumb as fuck. Why'd I say that? Above Marth, we have Gordon, aka 5 points, who is also known as the early game archer who will get replaced. Drog here is the early game armored knight. That's I mean, yeah, he's just the early game armor knight. I don't know what to say. He kind of reminds me of this guy from Slam Dunk. To the right of Marth, we have Sita, and yes, that is how you say her name. When I was super new to these games, I thought her name was pronounced Kaeda, but no, it's Sita. Trust me, it's Sita. I can't really think of an archetype for her besides being one of my favorite characters in the game. I'll explain why later. And finally, we have Jagen, the first of the Jagen archetypes. Yes, it's named after him. You might be wondering, why does this guy have his own archetype, and why don't we talk about it? By looking at the stats of everyone, you might be inclined to just use Jagen. He has the best stats, and has access to the Silver Lance, which is better than the Iron and Steel items that we have. So you might just use only him, and then when you use him and he levels up... What the fuck just happened? Where are the stats? In this game, every character has different growth rates. When you level up a character, there's a certain percentage chance that each stat will increase depending on that character. Not every character is guaranteed to be good because of their growth rates. At the end of the day, it's still a percentage. So let's take a look here at Marth's growth rates, okay? Now let's look at Sita's, and now let's take a look at Jagen's. You might look at these and question, why would anyone even use this guy then? Jagen's purpose is to weaken enemies for your other units. If you're in a sticky situation, he has that Silver Lance to help you get out of it. Because of his growth rates, Jagen will eventually not be as useful as he is in the early game, but by then, he would have served his purpose. Also in this game, if you see a village, make sure Marth gets to it. Marth is the lord of this game, meaning he has to do everything himself. It's always worth going to these villages because they can give you items, money, or a new person for you to recruit into your army, such as Riss, otherwise known as the early game healer. And because Marth is the lord, every single map in this game requires Marth to go to a throne and seize it. There's always going to be a boss on top of the throne though, so it's never going to be that easy. Except it kind of is, because the bosses in this game aren't too big of a deal. Later on, you might also find enemies that you can recruit. Usually enemies with character portraits. But remember that just because an enemy has a character portrait doesn't mean you can always recruit them. Keep that in mind. It can take a bit of trial and error trying to figure out who you need to talk to an enemy with. Or you could just play with a guide. I mean, that works too, I guess.
I got a big ass bush, and that's wrong. Pause.
Bush.
No pause.
There's large foliage outside.
This is also a great time to explain why Sita is one of my favorite characters in the game. You see, most of the people in this game are recruited by Marth. Marth alone can recruit 16 units to his army. That is a lot, and a second place is Sita with 5, which is also a lot, but it's just the way she recruits some of these guys. Like here, we have this conversation between her and an enemy named Roger, and in the middle of battle, she asks him this. Like, that's kind of crazy, but what's even crazier is that it works, and he joins our army. But how about we actually get back to the story, because I'm nerding out a bit too much. Now, keep in mind that the story in the NES game is pretty confusing, and I'm going to explain the story exactly how the NES game does it. You will be confused, I can assure you. But hey, this is the true Fire Emblem 1 experience. Also, I will be cutting in every once in a while to talk about gameplay because that's just how I do these things. Marth and his crew save the King of Talus, and he tells us that we will travel to Aurelis. Seriously, I mean, like, he's just telling us to go. He's gonna send some people to help us out, and apparently Dollar is the bad guy here. As we're traveling there, we come across some new allies, such as Julian the Thief, because every fantasy RPG needs that one thief. And a unit whose main use will be to open up doors and to open up chests for us. Another healer by the name of Lena, that you can use if you want, but I already have Riss. But make sure to keep her name in mind. Navarre, the Wandering Swordsman archetype, a character that I ended up using because... I don't know, I just wanted to use him. I don't even know why I wrote that. And Merrick, the early game mage, and someone who is actually extremely good. How is he good, you may ask? Well, isn't that a great way to start talking about the stats? I've talked about growth rates for stats, but I haven't spoken about what each stat does, have I? It's very simple since this is the first game, but let's go through them one by one. Strength is how hard you can hit. The higher the number, the more damage you can do. Skill determines your accuracy when you fight. You may notice that there's a bar below your health when you attack an enemy. That's pretty much the percentage that your attack will hit. Remember, a high % chance to hit does not mean that it's guaranteed, so things like this can happen. You can also see strength and defense down there, but I have to be honest and say that I barely paid attention to this thing. Next is the weapon level. This determines the weapons a unit can use. A higher weapon level just means that the unit can use better weapons. Speed will help a unit avoid attacks better and allow a unit to attack twice during combat. Without saying too much, if your character's faster, you will attack twice. But the enemy can also attack you twice, so be careful of that. We call that doubling. Luck reduces the chance that an enemy will crit you, because they can crit you, and it is the worst feeling. Luckily for me, I don't get crit by enemies, at least not in this game. Defense reduces the physical damage a unit will take. Now we're getting closer to why I said Merrick was good, because that guy is a mage. Movement determines how many tiles a unit can move in a turn. I won't say too much, but I will say that having units with more movement makes the game go by faster. That's all I'm saying. And last, but certainly not least, resistance. Resistance reduces the magical damage a unit will take. Now, as Merrick is a mage, he only does magic damage. Strength means nothing to him, and looking at his stats and growth rates, yeah, he looks good, except how the hell is he gonna do any damage? Well, I want you to look at the growth rates of all my current units. Do you notice something? They all have 0% growth in res. This also applies to the majority of enemies in the game having little to no res at all. So Merrick's attack comes from the base damage a tome will do. He comes with his personal tome Excalibur, which does 13 damage. So Merrick will most of the time do 13 damage to every enemy. I guess you could say similar to true damage because almost every enemy has no resistance, but I think that's going a bit far. Another thing that I want to quickly mention is that the enemies in this game tend to target Marth a lot. I assume this is because the game is trying to get the player to have a game over, therefore targeting Marth. There's just two problems here. First off, the developers probably didn't account for the fact that people just reset the game if they lose one character. Second, since the enemies tend to target Marth, something like this can happen. Marth's level is already capped out, and my second highest level units aren't even halfway there. What the hell just happened? We're now here in Aurelis, and as we seize this throne, it turns out we just liberated the southern castle. The king and Nina are protected by Hardin in the northern castle, and as we're arriving, we meet them. Nina goes back into the castle for safety, and this guy with the turban, named Hardin, joins our army with his group of soldiers, the Wolf Guard. I just have to say this, the Wolf Guard are horrible. These guys suck. Hardin is the best one here, and make sure to remember him. We clear out all the enemies outside, and it's time to get into that castle. But wait, it turns out that Princess Nina will arrive shortly. There's enemies inside, so what castle did she go to? Well, I guess Princess Nina went into this one because after seizing the throne, we will now talk with her. This is Princess Nina of Arcanea. The Arcanea Kingdom is in charge of protecting the world, but they've lost to Dolar, so it's up to Marth and friends to lead the Liberation Army and liberate the world. We also find out in this conversation that Altea, the group that Marth is with, has been loyal to Arcanea since ancient times, and it's their duty to defeat Medius. All you need to know right now is that Medius is the big bad guy of the game. Nina then hands us the Fire Emblem, the symbol of Arcanea's royal family. It's a symbol of a champion that's given to the one who will save the world. Sounds perfect for a guy like Marth. It also allows Marth to open up chests without needing one of these two. The chapter right after that, we meet a Manakete named Bontu, looking for a girl named Tiki, so he just tags along. A Manakete is just a dragon, and these guys are able to seal their dragon powers in stones to look human. In Bantu's case, he still doesn't look human. He looks like a goddamn gargoyle. We also finally learn a bit more about this world. So far, everything's been kind of just random, but anyways. Long ago, the Manaketes lived in Dolar in 3 separate groups. The Divine Dragon Tribe, Naga, the Mage Dragon Tribe, Basilisk, and the Fire Dragon Tribe, Salamander. The Naga tribe was the strongest and helped humanity fight off the other tribes when they attacked. During a time of peace, the Earth Dragon Medius appeared, beat up Naga and took over the world. That's it. The only one to stand up to him was a man named Henri, wielding a blade named Falchion. He defeated Medius and then created Altea, but 100 years have passed since then, and Medius has been resurrected. Marth is the direct descendant of Henri, and as his direct descendant, it's time to get to work and put this guy down. So that's basically the plot right there. Get Falchion and take down Medius. I can honestly end it right there and just start talking about my thoughts of the game, but there are just some characters and things that I just really want to talk about. Along the way, we'll find more people to recruit into our army to help take down Medius, but I only really feel like mentioning the goats. Like Minerva. Once saving her sister, she joins your army and all I can say is that she's a goat. Her sister that you just saved, Maria, goat. I mean, you get Minerva because of her, automatic goat. All 3 White Wings, who are just 3 Pegasus Knights who happen to be sisters, automatically join your party if you get Minerva. So Catria, Palla, and Est, automatic goats. Lind, goat. Anna, she's not even playable, goat. Gordon, you know, I really try to use him, but god damn, this guy is horrible. On the map where we get Minerva, we're also introduced to an item called a Hero Crest. Now, this item is used to promote mercenaries into heroes once they're past level 10. I won't say them all, but the classes that can promote need a certain item in order to do so. So when you promote, your character goes back to level 1 with some increased stats. Some people prefer to promote at level 10, and some prefer to promote at level 20. The difference is that since level 20 is the max level, if you get your unit to level 20, you get more stats, because that's an extra 10 levels you are getting before resetting to level 1. People can probably debate why it's not necessary to get to level 20 and why promoting early is the better move, but just do whatever you want. So after beating this boss named Grigas, he first off compliments our skill, which is a nice change of pace, but then tells us that Camus' Sable Order will soon fight us, and he will destroy us. Yes, his name is pronounced Camus, not Camus. So besides that, in order to get Falchion, Marth is gonna have to go back to this Altean castle to retrieve it. The game gives a little backstory to this place, like how Graal was Altea's ally. Altea got backstabbed by them, King Cornelius died here, 2 years later, and it's time for Marth to head in and reclaim this place. But where's Falchion? Turns out a guy named Garnif took it. Garnif is the guy who's currently trying to resurrect Medius, and we need that thing back because we're not beating Medius without it. Marth later has a telepathic conversation with a man named Archsage Godo. Pretty much, Garnif was a student of his at some point, but he robbed the Imhulu tome from Godo, and also robbed Falchion. With those two, Dolar can destroy everything, but if we can find the Star Sphere and the Light Sphere, Godo can give us the Starlight Tome, which can defeat Imhulu. This is also the only way to actually hurt Garnif, because the Imhulu tome makes him immune to everything else. In another chapter, chapter, where Marth and friends go back to Altea, we actually find out that 2 years ago, on the day that Dolar took over, Marth's sister Elise helped him escape to Talus by acting as a decoy and getting caught. Another reason for us to take down Garneth, since he has her. And now here, I just want to stop for a moment to say that this is the chapter where we get Tiki, the 1,000-year-old dragon girl archetype, aka one of the biggest carries in this game. I seriously got carried by her, and if it wasn't obvious, that's a goat right there. Bantu helped me get Tiki, so you know what, Bantu, you're still trash. You also get the Star Sphere and the Light Sphere here as well, for the Starlight Tome later. At the end of this map, Nina tells us about Camus and how he protected her even against Medius. Nina asks Marth to not fight him, because she wishes to see him again. And as we come face to face with Camus, Marth and Nina tell Camus to put down his weapons and to join us. But Camus declines. He's a proud knight of Grust who has joined forces with Dolar. He vowed to fight until the very end, so we can't back down now. Camus starts the archetype of the enemy who seems like they would join your army, but don't because of their loyalty to the opposing side. Camus is a goat for many reasons, but I can't get into that right now. You actually meet him in some town earlier in the game. He tells us to take care of Nina and gives us a tome, which is cool. Once beating Camus, Marth apologizes to Nina that he couldn't keep his promise, and Nina says that she knew that this would happen. It's the curse of the emblem to lose the one they love. The translation here is a bit iffy, but I think I got the message across. So let's fast forward here a bit, because we're nearing the end of the game, and you can probably guess how this is gonna go. I did a little boss abuse here and there to get Tiki to a high level, and Sita to the max level. There's something wrong with me. Well, everything is pretty good, except for strength. Was it worth it for Sita? Yes, it was. Should I do the same for Gordon? We fought Minerva's brother, who killed his own father, and now we just killed him. Gave Godo these two things, and now we got Starlight to beat Garneth. The map where we fight Garneth might seem a bit crazy, but listen here. He's made 4 copies of himself, but the real one has Imhulu, and the others just have some random tomes. Beating Garneth finally gets us the falchion. Let me just pick it up from the storage. Yeah, this takes a while. We save Marth's sister, and now we're heading off to the final levels of the game. But how about we talk about falchion? This weapon is Marth's personal weapon. Only he can use it. It is super effective against Medius, dragons, and it seals all non-dragon attacks. Except for arrows, I guess. But let me say it again. It seals all non-dragon attacks. Marth is nearly untouchable. Honestly, he might be, because if you use the sword as an item, this shit happens and all his health is back. And the animation for using falchion is just too much. It's too much. After beating Medius, he tells Marth that although he is defeated, as long as there is light, there will always be darkness. And after 3 long years, the war has finally come to an end. Also, this conversation between Marth and Sita, because those two are in love with each other. And then possibly one of my favorite parts of these games, seeing where everyone is after the story. Now, if a character died, it wouldn't say anything besides like, fell in chapter whatever or something like that. But it's nice to see how everyone is doing after it all, especially seeing Marth and Sita's. This right here is probably also one of the main reasons why people reset in these games. And that's it right there. Fire Emblem 1. It's always nice to see how a series starts and what carries on in future games and how they've changed since then. I think the best way to describe this game would just be simple. It's a very simple Fire Emblem game, especially with how things get in the later games. I think this one is pretty good. The music in this game is really nice. I actually love the music in this game. As a Fire Emblem fan, I've heard all of these tracks before from different games, but hearing the original just has a different feeling. It's like I'm nostalgic for something I wasn't even there for. What the fuck is wrong with me? Now, would I recommend this game to someone who's new to Fire Emblem? No, not really. If you started off with this game, you have my complete respect. But there's just other games that are better for someone new to this series. I feel like you have to be an extreme Fire Emblem fan to go back to this game and fully play it. One thing with this game is that it's really slow. It came out on the NES, so it's to be expected, but this game is really slow, and that can turn some people off. I still think that this game is worth playing though, and you don't have to play the full game. I think just playing the first chapter of this game, just to see how the series started, is good enough. But if you still want to experience Marth's story and you don't have a DS, but you have a Super Famicom, I don't know what I'm trying to do here, might I recommend Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem, otherwise known as Fire Emblem 3. Now, why would I recommend this game? Well, look here. Starting the game, there's Book 1 and Book 2. Book 1, The War of Darkness, is a complete remake of Fire Emblem 1. So if you're planning to play the first game, you can play an updated version here. More backstory for everything, more dialogue, better graphics, enhanced music, Marth looks good, Sita looks good, and Camus is looking as cool as a cucumber. There are some characters that are missing in this version, such as my guy Daros. You know, the guy I used for footage a while back? Yes? No? Whatever. But the story is the same. So, let me talk about what they've added here. All the animations got a massive upgrade from the first game. But I must talk about Marth's swagger. Do you see how he walks up to the enemy? Okay, nothing but just pure gameplay. Look at this. Ah, of course. Okay, Marth is really like that in this game, and when he gets Falchion, it's just poetry in motion. They've also made it easier to level up healers in this game, and you might question how. Now listen closely. In the NES game, your healer had to get hit or dodge an attack in order to get EXP. You didn't get EXP from healing, but from getting hit. I don't think I need to say anything else. In this game, a healer can get EXP from healing. Thank God. Storage was also done a lot better in this game. Instead of having to go back to this tent all the time to put things into storage and to get things out, that's completely gone now. During preparation, you can now deposit and withdraw items without doing any of that on the map. And on the map, Marth acts as the convoy, allowing you to get any item you need during battle. Also, some of the names that you'll see on screen will be different from what I say, but just remember, it's a different translation. Like how Sita's name is Shida, which is how it's said in Japanese. The translation can be off at some points, but that's just being nitpicky when I already know all these characters, and I already know the story. Well, let's start with Fire Emblem 3, for real this time. Book 2, The War of Heroes. The war with the Dolian Empire has come to an end after the defeat of Medius, but the scars of war still run deep, with every kingdom working towards restoration. Then, at the royal capital of Pales, the king of Aurelis' younger brother, Hardin, married Princess Nina, becoming the 24th king of Arcanea. Okay, I need to cut in right here, because these two are getting married, and they felt the need to put a picture of Camus right there. Why? And yes, this is Hardin, the Serbian guy I mentioned before. But anyways, Hardin would go on to restore the country. He gathered soldiers to create a powerful army, and then declared himself as Emperor. Hardin, what's going on with you, man? It's been a year since the War of Darkness. Thanks to Marth, Altea has been finally able to stabilize after the war, and Jagan has retired, becoming Marth's tactician. It looks like Marth and Sita are planning to get married soon, but as the day of the wedding gets closer, Marth gets a message from Emperor Hardin stating that there's been a rebellion at Grust that we need to keep in check right now. As it was said in the first game, Altea has been loyal to Arcanea since ancient times, so Marth can't refuse this, and it's time to get started. As we get there, we talk to this person named General Lang, and he informs us that the person that we'll have to defeat is General Lorenz, the person leading this rebellion, and an ally from the previous war. It seems that Lorenz is hiding the Grustian royal children, and General Lang has a problem with that. He orders Marth to capture the kids, and to kill Lorenz. What the hell's wrong with this guy? Okay. Now we just took it too far, talking about my goat Marth like that. Who even are you? Who are you? Okay, so he stole from other people to add to his own wealth, and probably stole from people here in Grust, adding to their suffering, leading to Lorenz's rebellion, and now we have to fight Lorenz. Well, let's check out our new units, since we do have some new recruits here. Damn, you look unwell. Well, Aaron's our new Jagan. He was recruitable in the previous game, and if you liked using him then, sorry to say, he's the new Jagan. Gordon brought along his brother Ryan this time around. Drog is back, and these Cavaliers are pure filler characters. Luke, Rhodey, and Cecile. Don't think I forgot about Ryan either. He is filler too. Up in the village above, we find Marisha, who's going to be one of my many healers, and she may or may not have a crush on Marth. I just want to remind you that this game only takes place a year after the last one, so many of the people that we will recruit will either be units from the last game, or people who are acquainted with them. There's a little cutscene before Marth reaches the castle of Lorenz telling Ogma, a mercenary who has worked with us before, to take the royal children of the late King Rust to Wendell. But the children won't budge, and the problem is that Lorenz is planning to die here, and there's nothing we can do. As Marth speaks to Lorenz, he tells him that he can tell Hardin about what's been going on, so that Grust can be saved. But Lorenz knows what Hardin has done. Hardin sent Lang here in hopes that Grust would rebel, giving the Empire a reason to destroy them and become ruled by them. Marth can't believe it, but the Hardin we once knew is no more. After becoming the Emperor, he became an entirely different person. Makes me regret using him now. But as long as Marth can save and take care of those two children, Lorenz will have no regrets. Lang comes along and gives Marth a new mission, to go rescue Princess Minerva because of another rebellion in Macedon. Marth begs Lang to leave those children with him, because he also knows that Lang is not normal. But Marth keeps getting disrespected by this guy, and there's nothing we can do. We can't fight him because that'll make us traitors, so all we can do is just follow orders for now. So Macedon was actually ruled by Minerva after the War of Darkness, and she decided to get rid of the generals who caused suffering to her people. Sounds perfectly fine. Actually, that sounds good. But a general named Ruck didn't like that, so he gathered some followers and captured Minerva. So now Macedon's in the hands of these guys. It's only been a year, and things are starting up again. Marth and Sita have a wedding to get to. Come on, guys. Minerva isn't the only person they've captured here. They've also captured Lind, who will be my primary mage for this run. I've already mentioned it before, but Lind is a goat. I think she's better than Merrick in this game, but don't forget, Merrick is still a goat. Don't forget that. And by proxy of Nina, she also gives Marth the Fire Emblem. She doesn't know why Nina wanted us to have this, and Marth doesn't either. But we still gotta get Minerva back. Can't leave one of the goats hanging. In the very next chapter, we find out from Julian and Palla that Lena has gone missing, along with Maria. And this guy Julian is depressed. He'll get better soon though, with some magic. I'll elaborate more on the magic later. And rising from the grave, Michaelis comes back to get his sister. He could care less about what's going on, but he wants to make sure his sister is alive and well. Minerva's even surprised that he's still alive. How did he make it out alive? Right here, though, is one of the guaranteed carries of this game, being Palla. She's one of the White Wings, and it was just inevitable for someone like her to become a carry for the team. She starts off at level 10, Iron Sword, and Silver Lance. By the end of this map, she was level 16, about to be level 17. Considering that she also has great growth rates, she will be one of your strongest units. You can complain about her low luck growth and low defense growth, but look how early it is in the game. It's chapter 3, and I have a unit that's almost level 20. All I'm missing is a Dragon Whip to promote her. Instant GOAT. Well, anyways, seizing the throne gives us another conversation between Marth and Lang. To cut it short, Lang's castle was attacked by Ogma, and he ended up taking those kids back. And Lang wants us to find him and kill him. Marth disobeys orders because he's the GOAT, and Jagan even says he'll come out of retirement just to kick his ass. Hank Hill. I can't call everyone a goat because then it loses all meaning, but Jagan is a goat for that. In the next chapter, we find Ogma and the two royal children that he's currently protecting, Yulia and Yubilo. But I want you to pay attention here, where we find the other guaranteed carry of this game, Sirius, who looks an awful lot like another blonde paladin, but that must be a coincidence. He's a pre-promoted paladin that starts off at level 4, has great stats off the bat. We call those great bases, and has great growth rates. His luck leaves a lot to be desired, but it's nothing some items can't fix. Sirius is just great, and will be a carry for me and you until the very end. Now, this isn't to the extent of what happened with Pala, but Sirius joined at level 4, and now he's almost level 9. Keep in mind that he's already promoted, and level 20 is the max level. Instant GOAT. However, there is a problem that both Pala and Sirius share, and it's that they're both mounted units. This wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't for a new mechanic that was introduced in this game. Mounted units can now unmount and fight on foot. This is a way to counter the Rider's Bane weapon, which was more effective against mounted units, or to counter arrows for mounted flyers. When you're mounted, you can only use lances, and when you're on foot, you can only use swords. Sounds okay, right? Sadly, this also came with a new type of map, being indoor maps. Now, there are plenty of maps you can say were indoor in the previous game, but in this game, mounted units have to be on foot indoors. No lances, and no type of extra movement. After seizing the throne, Sita comes to tell Marth that Altea has gone ambushed by Arcanea, Gra, and the Aurelius United Army. It looks like after hearing what Lang had to say about us, Hardin has now declared Marth and friends as traitors. Let me just say that none of this would have happened if Camus just joined us the first time and Nina got married to him instead. Actually, maybe it would have. No, whatever. Elise stayed behind to help Sita escape, so it's time to get our sister back again, and hopefully we get Abel and Est back too. Spoiler, but we get them back. Oh yeah, this is what I meant by the magic that helps Julian. The homie magic. We meet Rickard again, and you can read what's going on here. That's the homie magic, which works to varying degrees. I have a video example of homie magic that didn't work as well as this.
Homie, you just fucked your whole track history by saying you suck off a donkey. What the fuck is that about?
You gonna send me that shit, bro? Are you stupid, bro?
Alright, we're here in Lang's castle to take him down, and we managed to recruit Navarre, except this isn't Navarre, but Samto, some dude who looks a lot like Navarre and is someone that I don't plan on using. Let's just skip to the fight against Lang, who is still trash until the very end. Let's just say that. Lang, you are so trash. You are about to die. What are you... Oh, Lang, you are so trash. That's why you missed this. I didn't leave my guard down. Look how slow you are moving. You're moving this slow just to miss. Look at yourself. Look! Thank God I have Lynn, am I right? Merrick could never. I'm sorry. Okay, that's actually crazy. Oh! Okay, Merrick could never. Merrick could never. Beating Lang, Wendell pops out of the wall to tell us that the star sphere that we had last time was actually one of the 5 spheres that protect this world, but it's been shattered into 12 pieces that we need to get back for the true ending. That's why Lang dropped something called Cancer when we beat him. The 12 pieces are based off the Zodiac. In the very next chapter, we recruit the real Navarre, my primary hero for the run, and Fina, the original dancer, and another carry added to your army. Dancers don't seem like much because their stats aren't all too great, but dancers have the ability to make a unit move a second time during a turn. I've always considered dancers to be some of the best units in Fire Emblem games because allowing your strongest unit to attack again is something you really can't ignore. And it doesn't have to be for attacking, it can be for repositioning, utility, there's just so much you can do with the dancer. Navarre here is also a very good unit to use, but you don't really have to use him. You get access to Ogma much earlier, and using him will probably yield the same results anyways. One thing you might notice with a dancer is that they get EXP whenever they dance. Makes sense, right? But this also means you can keep dancing and gaining EXP until this unit's level is capped out. Now, I'm not one to judge, but it is something you can do. Something I wouldn't do, but something you can do. Next chapter, we come face to face with Hardin, and yeah, this guy is completely different. The main reason for him being different is quite simple. He lost the turban. That's the one thing keeping him in line. Also, George, you're coming with us. Things just go from bad to even worse. Everybody's against us, and we already knew that. but now Cadian, the city of magic, has now launched an attack on us. So we have a mage army after us too. Only good thing here is that Michaelis dropped Minerva off here in this village for us to recruit. Goat secured. I'm just gonna gloss over this whole thing between Merrick and this guy Arlen because this looks just like a Star Wars conversation. Merrick got Excalibur and Arlen didn't because of the darkness within his heart. And, I mean, you know how this goes. We also recruit Arlen because Wendell told him to join, and yeah, that's pretty much it. At the end of the map, Marth has a telepathic conversation with Godo about the reason behind Hardin's change. It was due to the Dark Sphere. Along with granting him power, it is also the reason why his heart was consumed by darkness. The only way to potentially save him is with the Light Sphere. Good news is that Godo will let us borrow the Light Sphere if we can meet him at the Ice Dragon Shrine. Bad news is that there's only one person who's been able to reach it, the hero Henri. But what did Henri have to go through? A horrible map. I am not talking about this place. I will mention that there's also some backstory about Henri. It's mostly about how he had to travel through here to get Falchion, and to save the princess of Arcanea at the time, Artemis. And yeah, beating Medius too. There is more to it than that, but let's keep it simple. At least we get to see Tiki at the end of this map, but no, it's this guy Zane. I didn't bother mentioning him before, but he's this guy. Godo told him to wait here for us for some reason, okay. Also, he's a dragon. Yeah, Zane mentions that he is a divine dragon along with Godo while giving us a history lesson. Earth, Mage, and Flying Dragons started to lose their mind and attack humans, and humans couldn't do anything to fight back. Naga, the queen, let me say it again, the queen of divine dragons goes ahead and defends the humans and seals the earth dragons underneath Dolar and put them in a deep slumber. To prevent the seal from breaking, she created the Shield of the Five Spheres, aka the Binding Shield, over 1,000 years ago. Marth then asks, why was Falchion left behind? And it's because the humans needed something to defend themselves with, so Naga broke off one of her fangs and made a sword from it. Naga would also end up putting a newly born Tiki into a deep sleep. There's some other stuff about Tiki having enough power to destroy the world, but let's just get to Godo and get that Light Sphere. Now, if you've been collecting all the Astral Shards, you will also receive the Star Sphere, which makes it so that the holder's weapons can't break. It also increases the holder's growth rates by 30%. I just really want you to think about how much that is. And it's needed for the true ending, so there's really no reason to not go for this thing. It also turns out that the Fire Emblem is the Binding Shield. I honestly had no idea this thing was even big enough to be a shield, but I guess they said it before. But listen here, the Royal Treasure of Arcanea is the Fire Emblem, which is the Binding Shield. 600 years ago, some dude broke the Binding Shield, sold all the spheres, kept just the shield, and would later go on to become the first king of Arcanea. That means the first king of Arcanea was originally a thief. No, Julian. Why'd I even say it? What the fuck? With that out of the way, there's still time to repair the Binding Shield, but we need to act fast, because the Earth Dragons that were sealed are now starting to reawaken. Also, if we don't get this Binding Shield repaired, Tiki is going to go nuts, and I can't have one of my carries going crazy on me now, can I? Only thing left to do now is to go back to Altea, just like in the first game, and reclaim it. We reclaimed Altea, but Marth's sister isn't here. Garneth has taken her again, along with other clerics of noble birth, including Maria and Elena. Shortly after this, Marth actually meets with the King of Aurelis, who is also Hardin's older brother. He now understands that he was wrong for following Arcanea and believing in Hardin, and that's the Light Sphere right there. He also gives the country of Aurelis to Marth too, but the Life Sphere is much more important for this shield. The Life Sphere also restores all HP to the holder at the start of the player phase. I don't think I need to say why that's really good. Before we face Hardin, we come to learn why he has turned to the dark side. After the war, to restore Arcanea, there needed to be a king. The only two possible candidates for that would have been Hardin or Marth. Nina was begged to make up her mind, and she ended up choosing Hardin because she knew that Marth and Sita had feelings for each other. The thing here is that Nina still had feelings for Camus, and she just couldn't love Hardin in the same way. She tried to hide it, but Hardin would soon find out that she truly loved Camus. And while being heartbroken, Garneth took his chance and gave him the Dark Sphere, and now all this happened. He also gave Nina to Garneth too. God damn it, Hardin. Well, it's about time to fight Hardin, and it's really not that hard of a fight. Put all the spheres on someone, preferably Marth because he's the GOAT, and just start swinging. Before Hardin dies, he puts the turban back on just for a short while to be able to talk to us normally. He tells Marth that he would have been able to fight back if the turban was still on, but Garneth made sure to hide it. He wants Marth to take care of Nina, and to let her know that he still loved her until the very end. With the Dark Sphere obtained from Hardin, the Binding Shield has now been repaired. Right here is where you would get the bad ending if you didn't get all the shards. I'll type it out and put it on screen because I actually got the bad ending the first time I played through this, in the remake that is, and I was so unsatisfied and confused that I immediately had to play the game again for the real ending. Before we can save Maria, Lena, Elise, and Nina, we still need to seal all of the Earth Dragons back with this Binding Shield. In the village to the top right of this map, Marth meets a gravely injured Michaelis. He managed to take Starlight away from Garneth and hands it to us before he passes away. away. The only thing he asks of us is to take care of Maria. We then make it to the dragon's table, where Naga sealed away the Earth Dragons. And there's some bad news. We defeated Medius last time, but because of his life force, he didn't die. He was just put into a deep slumber. The next time he reawakens, we'll have some problems though. He'll be back as a shadow dragon. I don't know what that means, but I don't want to find out. Other bad news, Garneth knew about this and plans to resurrect Medius with the noble blood of the 4 clerics. Yeah, we're going to need Fulgen fast, because there's a potential shadow dragon that's about to wake up early. Now for this map, there are some things that you need to know before you get started. You can recruit all the clerics back into your army for a complete nice happy ending. But to do this, you're going to need to talk to Elise with Merrick, Lena with Julian, Maria with Minerva, and Nina with Sirius. I wonder why Sirius has to be the one to talk to Nina. From now on, the 15 people that you take into these maps, including the ones that need to talk to the clerics, will be the people you will be using until the very end. Really starting to regret not using Merrick, but it's alright. Once again, in order to get Fulgen, we're going to need to fight Garneth and his 4 clones. But like last time, the real one is the one with Imhulu. You can only beat him with the Starlight Tome you get from Mikalis, and once you beat him, Fulgen is back in Marth's hands. It's the final map of the game now, and Medius has already awakened. Now every turn, Medius will summon around 2 to 5 Earth Dragons around him. That would be extremely annoying to deal with, but luckily we have the Binding Shield, which seals them at the end of the enemy phase. You would think this would still be hard though, because in order to talk to the clerics, you're putting your units in range of getting hit by Medius. And honestly, RNG might have just been on my side because it really wasn't all that hard. Also, yes, Sirius is actually Camus. When he talks to Nina, she recognizes him instantly, but he continues to push her away and tells her that he is just a soldier named Sirius, and that he must leave soon. He has someone waiting for him in another country. And Nina, knowing completely that it's Camus that she's speaking to, accepts that. I feel pretty bad for Nina. But I have to say it, Camus is a goat. I don't care. You might read this conversation and be confused why I just called him a goat, but Camus is a goat and I can't explain why right now. Honestly, I don't know when I will. But talk to all the clerics for that happy ending, and finish off Medius with Marth. Smooth way to end it, Marth. As Medius falls, he tells Marth that as long as greed lives on in the hearts of man, Marth will lose the shield, and Medius will rise from the earth once again. And there we go, Medius has been completely destroyed. Marth has just saved humanity, the Dragon Tribe, Tiki from going crazy, and finally getting that long-awaited conversation between Marth and Sita. With all of the nations of Arcanea going to be unified, Marth is the one who's going to have to be in charge. But he can't do it alone. And I think you know what he means. These two did have a wedding plan before all this happened. And so, the tragic war of heroes finally ended. The 7 kingdoms are unified by Prince Marth. The United Kingdom of Arcanea was established, and peace reigned. The tales of the heroes were remembered by future generations. Arcanea's Hero Saga. This is the story of the brave heroes who saved Arcanea. There you have it, Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem. The story of Marth, the Hero King, from the beginning to the end. Well, sort of. Pretty good games, I must say. That's obviously biased, but I can't help it. I really like this series. I probably talked a bit too much, probably called every character in this game a goat at some point, but this series is seriously so good, and I just really wanted to talk about it. What can I say? I'm a hopeless fanboy. I just think it's good to go back and see how a series starts and how things change over the years. It makes you appreciate the little things much more, and even if the first game in this series is archaic and primitive, I can't call myself a fan of a series until I've gone back and played it. That's also just my opinion, by the way. Don't do what I do, because you end up skipping out on a bunch of great games because of a need to play them in order. Like, the amount of times I've refused to touch the Final Fantasy series solely because I haven't played the first one is honestly crazy. I might be crazy. Will I make more videos on Fire Emblem in the future? Probably, but I have plenty of games I need to make videos on before I get to that. Also, the next game up in the Fire Emblem series is a pretty big one. And yes, I'm skipping FE2 again. But before this video ends, why don't we look at what happened to everyone after the war? Damn! I mean, Eren looked sick, but damn, Luke is jobless? Marisha vanished. Wait, what does this mean? My goat Camus still being a goat. Est left Abel? Abel what? Okay, I feel like some of these are sad for no reason. Like really? I need to say this. Nina got hoed this entire game, and then she just vanishes? Can we get a top 5 of the most hoed characters in Fire Emblem? Nina has to be up there. But well, that's it for this video, so until next time, I will hopefully have what I need for a certain video when this one goes up, and I'll be working on it right away. If not, well... Xenosaga, anyone? Okay, that's a bit too much, There's a lot I want to say right now, especially with how that SpongeBob video went. But I think I'll save it for the description, if anyone reads those. Or maybe I'll save it for one of those filler videos I did before. So until next time, I will see you guys... until next time.